Royal Highness, Your Excellencies, young brains of the future, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm wearing a tie. Did you notice that? I don't even remember when the last time was when I wore a tie. When I was packing for this trip, I actually called my wife who was traveling, and I said, "Where are the ties?" And she said, "What's wrong?" And then said, let's give me a second to remember, because honestly, in Google we get spoiled for not having to be formal. We believe that it's a way for us to progress and innovate. And so I will say, though, that there is no other occasion ever that deserves the tie more than this. I'm so honored to be here. I'm so honored to have been part of intake 2 of RITI. Believe it or not, 17 years ago. I am so honored to be speaking to you. I've never imagined I will be speaking at a graduation of MsM. And I am so honored to be speaking on the 60th anniversary. I am so honored to be speaking to you, all the distinguished guests today. The brief I got was actually quite challenging. They said, okay, you have 15 minutes to tell us what happened between the time you were at MsM and the time you are now, and you know, what happened to get you where you are. And there are two sides to the challenge. One is there's not much interesting, really. But the other side is, surprisingly, I don't know. I'll tell you openly. I thought I'll just share with you in a very Google style. I didn't write a speech. 4 events in my life that I think have completely reshaped the way I look at things, 2 of which were actually at MsM. And 2 in life in general. Maybe you could probably try to relate to your own lives as I tell those stories. So I start with one that at MsM I think had the most significant impact on my life ever. I joined, as I said, in 1995, and Professor Huxley taught us operations management. And he worked at Chrysler, if some of you know, for 15 years at the time where the Japanese were going into the US and completely taking over the auto market. And he said that one of the challenges they faced was that they needed to produce cars quicker and better. And accordingly, they looked at every single process that they had to go through in the car manufacturing. You know, that bolt has to be tied from here and held from there, and you have to, you know, spin it 5 times to get locked. And I'm quoting his exact words. And they were looking for ways to maybe only spin it 3 times instead of 5, and have it only, you know, have the nut fixed to the wall somehow, so that it doesn't have to need 2 people to do it, and so on and so forth. And he said, we kept trying to look for ways that make us do what we do better. The Japanese came in and said, why a bolt to start with? They just had a plastic clip and boom, did that in a millisecond, literally, right? And he said, regardless of how hard we were trying to solve the problem by looking at how we do things, the answer was really, why are we doing what we're doing in the first place? And to me, that was a severe cold shower. You have no idea, it completely changed my life. Until today, actually, it's one of the basic principles in my life, in my work, and at home. You know, in RITI, we used to finish work at 6, 8 p.m. I'm sure most of you do the same, and then go to the MBA class. And of course, by the time I got home midnight, maybe because of Egypt's traffic, my wife was asleep. And that night, I woke her up. I said, "Do you think of this? Why are we doing what we're doing in the first place? This is what it's all about, right?" And it doesn't seem to be very smart, but it just skipped me for such a long time until I heard it for the first time. In the next few months, I left Egypt. I left IBM. When I graduated, I left the industry, as a matter of fact. I had a very strong belief as a result of my thesis that information technology was going to become commoditized, which I think is very true now. These are more of consumer products than mainframes. And so accordingly, I actually decided to go to the consumer goods industry and so on and so forth. Even as my country rose back in January last year, it wasn't about what a person in my position does, but why a person in my position does what he does. that I think has completely shaped the way I engaged with my country's rising. To me, I think that you know, the idea of changing the why, not the how, was quite significant. What was also more significant, looking at the why, is when I started to think that way, I asked myself, but why did you join MsM to start with? And yeah, I'm not very proud of that. I didn't join for the MBA. I joined because I thought I was wasting too much time in IBM, to be very honest. I love IBM. IBM was a fantastic school, but at the time, the way I looked at it was I worked 14-hour days, and I delivered my quota, but I could also probably deliver my quota in 11-hour days and develop myself a little bit in the remaining 3 hours. And what happened for me was, as I joined, the flood of knowledge completely opened my eyes. I was a graduate of Ain Shams University, one of the best engineering universities in Egypt. But the way learning was happening in our universities was very, very different. I think the types of conversations, the focus we had at MsM, I think the breadth of knowledge, I actually did not know that there was so much in the world. And when I went through the experience over the year and a half or 2 years, it completely changed my perspective on life. And I think before, I'm not sure if the lifelong learning concept was introduced officially then, but to me, I came out of my MBA with a complete attention to lifelong learning. I decided that it would be such a waste if I stop learning after this just because I don't have the pleasure of spending 3 hours a day with people who are teaching me. And I actually, we have this nasty habit in Google, please don't have it in your companies, where we have something they call breakfast meetings. I wonder why anybody would want to have a meeting at 6:30 a.m. in the morning, but anyway, all those energetic Googlers are up there, I have a rule of life that the first hour of the day, I'm a morning person, so it's my best hour of the day, is completely for my learning. Every hour, for as long as I can remember. Now, multiply 16 years by an hour a day, that's almost two many years worth of learning that I have put in myself since then. And if there is anything I would ask the young minds, the young graduates of MsM to do, it is to actually not stop learning. The world has changed so drastically now that through the alumni network, through YouTube, through whatever, you could learn so much. There is so much knowledge out there, from how you make a fish aquarium to why quantum mechanics work that way. So learn. No knowledge is ever harmful. Now, I say those two things with tremendous gratitude. Honestly, I mean, everybody who taught me anything in MsM has completely changed my life. I say it from all my heart. But I will, however, say that one thing that we learn in business school is actually my point number 3 is not correct. So one thing we learn in business school is they tell us that everything we do results in where we end up. And I actually disagree completely. I think we learn in business school that it's all about us, it's all about control, it's all about action, it's all about taking problems and solving them. I will tell you very openly, luck plays a huge role, okay? And I will ask you to take this to heart. I know most of us would like to feel that it was us that made it, but it's not really true. I just urge you to think, if you were born in the jungles of Africa, where you are one of the billion people who are below the poverty line, would you be here today? Ask yourself, if you were born in India and was trafficked as a child, part of 3 million people in our world today that are being trafficked, would you be here today? And those are not decisions that you could have made, okay? And life, I personally always say, I joined my IBM, which is an amazing place, because I had a car accident with a friend that worked at IBM. And I said, hey, where are you working now? He said, IBM, fabulous, we're looking for a civil engineer, come over. Okay, could I have faked that? Is that my work? Not really. I joined Google because one of my team just got promoted the day before he was offered to go and interview for Google. And he said, hey, no, I'm happy where I am, talk to Mo. Would I have faked that? I don't think if I could have done that. And luck plays a big role. And I think everybody in this room, you need to think about the fact of how lucky we are. We are by far the luckiest 0.1% of the whole world. As Warren Buffett in a speech some time ago said, he said, if I was born in the time where beasts were roaming the planet, my capital allocation skills would not have helped me very much. I would have ended up being lunch for somebody. So, so with that in mind, I will, however, say that luck can be manufactured, okay? And perhaps this is my last point, and probably my most important point. I hope it touches some of you, and maybe you take the same path. So luck can be manufactured for certain if you accept to take risks, because the more you engage and the more you discover, the more you will find opportunities to be lucky. And I think in our world today, the cost of taking risk is becoming so low that probably it makes a huge difference. But I also say luck can be manufactured because of a very interesting experience for me. One of the decisions I made when I learned my first principle is that the world was so big that I was going to work in a multinational environment where I traveled the world. And be careful what you wish for. For the last 17 years, I traveled 50% of every year. I don't complain, but it is a taxing experience. One of the pleasures I get while traveling is I actually don't sit in the airport lounges. I sit on those chairs out there where hundreds of people are passing by. And I try to ask myself, what's on her mind? What's on his mind? You know, she looks happy. She probably is going to meet somebody when she gets to the other end. He looks sad. He looks like he has fought with his boss. And somehow I just try to put myself in other people's places. I think it's a very educational experience, if you want. One day, around 12 years ago, I was sitting there, and the one thought that was going in my brain was, why are there so many people in my movie? Seriously. I could do with fewer supporting actors. You know, it's really quite complex. If you look at the person on your right and ask yourself, you know, what is she doing in this movie? Seriously, right? And I don't know if you ever ask yourself that question, but I can guarantee you she's thinking the same way. She's looking at you and saying, why is he in my movie, right? I'm the star of this movie. And one of you is wrong, because if you're the star of the movie, she's the supporting actor, and it's the other way around as well, right? And when I got that thought, it completely opened my eyes that this might not be my movie at all. As a matter of fact, I might actually be the supporting actor. And I will have to tell you, sometimes you go through a place and get stuck in a traffic, or you know, just stumble upon something, just so that you meet somebody that was a little late to that place, 5 seconds late, and maybe smile in their face and change their life, okay? Or maybe you meet somebody that is, as I said, you know, you get into an accident with your friend, and that results in you joining IBM, and so on and so forth. 12 years ago, I decided to specialize in the role of supporting actor, and the world has paid me back so generously. I told you, I was lucky to get the interview at Google, right? Now, it could be just luck out of the box, but it could also be luck that was manufactured, because in my view, I think Google was my reward. Google as a company is a company that completely believes in solving major problems that affect the life of millions of people, and as a result, make a lot of money, right? And so it's like home for me. I wake up every morning and I get the pleasure of serving billions of people in my region with technologies that completely change their life every day, from the 85,000 people that ask for the word heart attack and might actually realize that they have the symptoms and rush to a hospital, to the person that is asking about an MBA and may change his life, right? Now, if you think about that, I'll tell you one thing, and it was completely clear for me when Bob Geldof came to us and spoke to us in Google 2 years ago. Bob Geldof, if the young guys don't know, was the guy that driving force behind Life Aid when we were trying to get food for Africa, and my young years and long hair. I did have long hair. A Googler asked Bob Geldof and said, how did you undertake such an enormous task in such a short time? And his answer was so eye-opening. He said, when you decide to do something big that helps the world somehow reconfigures and conspires to help you, okay? And to me, this is what it's all about. You are the luckiest 0.1% of the world. And I know many of you will say, okay, this is idealistic. I'm just going to go on and focus on my career and become a CEO. Good luck. Yes, you will become a CEO. You're much better educated than the others. But I can guarantee you it is so much easier if the world is working in your favor. So I ask you to consider that. Enjoy it. I think you're going to have a tremendous trip ahead of you. And thank you very, very much for the honor of being here.